Okay, I thought I'd try this as a means to share some information on our group and what we do. Most of healthcare systems works in GPOs and IDNs. So you're going to see a lot of acronyms, and please stop me if you need additional help, or write them down and I'll get back to you. So healthcare systems is a CONMED term. Other healthcare manufacturers and our competitors have a similar group. Sometimes they call it national accounts, sometimes they call it corporate accounts. National accounts generally call on GPOs, group purchasing organizations, and corporate accounts normally call on these integrated delivery networks. The difference is group purchasing organizations are big contracting organizations. There's 3 or 4 of them that are very large: Vizient, Premier, HPG, and the government. IDNs are those facilities and organizations that contract with payers like insurance companies and the government, and provide actual care out in the market. So everything from dock in the boxes to those mobile ERs. You'll see a surgery center, radiology clinics, even hospitals. And so these IDNs have to buy stuff, and they'll use the contracts that group purchasing organizations come up with. The way it normally works is group purchasing organizations. I use the metaphor of a Sam's Club. If you get into Sam's, when you walk into Sam's, there's only a handful of each vendor's categories on the product, so on the shelf. So like, let's say you wanted shampoo, you would get Pert, and that's it. If you don't like Pert, then go somewhere else. Or if you don't like it in their size, then go to Walmart. You'll pay more per unit to go and have more choice. But generally speaking, the way that GPOs drive value to their members is to sort of select and narrow down the choices of markets. So when you look at a GPO, there may be a number of large IDNs that are part of it. So I mentioned Vizient, I've mentioned Premier, and I've mentioned HPG. The difference between them really is sort of philosophical. Vizient and Premier are voluntary. They're all organized about like this, where you have large IDNs and smaller independent hospitals and surgery centers. Each of them are sort of made up about the same, about 1,500 hospitals and call it 1,500 surgery centers. These are voluntary. HPG, if you join Health Trust Purchasing Group, it's pretty much you have to join and comply with their contracts, and that means they're contract vendors, right? So HPG is made up of mainly for profits. So it's spun out of HCA, Healthcare Corporation of America, when they were called Columbia 25 years ago, and before that, even before that, it was called Humana. So when you look at HPG, there's HCA, CHS, and a couple others. Ardent is in there, LifePoint, and AmSurge and Tenet. So those are all for profits out there. Vizient is made up of former VHA, Volunteer Hospitals of America, community hospitals, and they also have University Hospital Consortium. So large universities are part of Vizient. Vizient also has these larger sort of sub-IDNs that are out there. So you'll have like a Midwest coalition, in which case maybe 50 hospitals, and inside of that a large anchor tenant like Mayo. And what Premier does is something similar. So organizationally, it just goes from very large, smaller and smaller. At the very bottom of this is the individual hospital. So even though you have a contract with the GPO, you still have to have a relationship with the IDN, and you still have to have a relationship here at the facility level. Very rarely can you just turn off the brain and have these folks drive the sale down here. So it's imperative that you have layers of relationships. So national accounts, corporate accounts, individual sales folks. The way that these GPOs, these are all GPOs, make their money is on admin fees. Typically it's around 3%. About 25 years ago, before they passed legislation, if you were a market share leader, let's say you had 80% market share, you would offer the GPOs 10% admin fee, and then you crank your prices up 30%. And so these folks would actually do your selling for you. Some of the senators realized that was sort of corrupt and a conflict of interest, so they said basically anything more than 3%, you're going to have to report to us to keep the cost of healthcare down. And that's essentially where it is. So you very rarely see an admin fee more than 3%. This fee that we pay every time we sell something, every quarter, every month we sell this, we sell something, we pay it back to these groups if we're on contract. That pays for all their administrative overhead, these beautiful buildings and all the contracts and pushing out contracts and negotiating prices, all the salaries and whatnot. So we sort of pay these folks to sort of, use their batons back on us. If you're on contract, that doesn't necessarily mean you're guaranteed sales, but it allows you, it's sort of a ticket to the dance, so then you can go out. There are a lot of hospitals that if you're not on contract, they will not buy from you. Okay, so enough about this organization. IDNs, there's probably 500 IDNs that are out there to our organization. Currently we track about 60 or 70 of them. And we also have surgery centers we track. We don't have enough resources. There's 5 of us out in the field to cover all 500 IDNs. So we're broken out regionally. So we have a southeast, a northeast, Midwest, a west, and so forth. So we not only cover a region, but we cover very specific IDNs, and some of us even pick up GPOs. So you have somebody on Vizient, someone on Premier, someone on HPG, someone calling on the government, okay? So all this organization, there's a lot of moving parts to it. There's obviously a lot of competitors. One last thing I want to leave you with is PPI, physician preference items. These items are all the items that are highly sort of contested in the OR. They're a little more complex of a sale. This is handled a little bit differently within these GPOs than other things. Sometimes they don't even want a contract with PPI. So these group purchasing organizations buy everything from coffee to energy to labor, and they provide credentialing services and other consulting stuff, but they also have contracts for cotton balls and shaver blades. So group purchasing organizations, IDN, and if you have any other questions, you write them down and send them my way, okay? Be happy to answer everything. Take care.